Okay, so thank you very much everyone for attending today. Welcome to our first Lunch and Learn of 2025. So today the theme is food and farming, and we've got two great speakers along today to speak to you about their work and its relation to the climate and the environment. So first up we have Rachel from Food Futures, who will be giving us a talk about the various different parts of their work. And then we have Simon from Lawn Farm and Sheep Milk UK, who are a farming cooperative producing sheep milk here in Lancashire. So I will pass over to Rachel, who'll be starting us off.
Hi everyone, nice to see you all, and thanks for coming along. I just realised actually I really haven't probably introduced why food and farming are so important in a climate context. I think because I've given a lot of talks where people know, and I'm wondering if it needs a bit of context. Um, but yeah, I mean, food has a big impact on the environment. How we produce food does, but it's also like obviously something that's essential for all of us for human health, human well-being, and how we produce food impacts human health as well as environmental health. And a lot of the work that we do as a food partnership is around working to sort of build more connection between people that eat food and the people that produce food, and also making food more accessible in various different ways. So access to how you produce food. So it's not just it's not just produced somewhere out the city, but we also think about how we can produce it in the city. So it's a very wide spanning bit of work. And all of our work is really centered around trying to build a local food system that is healthy for people, healthy for the environment, that's fair for people across the world. So fair for farmers locally, fair for people that are struggling to access food locally, but also fair for people that are producing food across the world. And resilient, which means it is going to stand up to whatever faces it in the future, like whatever shocks come to challenge how we produce food in the future, whether it be climate change, all the other things that can affect our food supply system around the world. So it's quite a big and complex issue, and it impacts human and the environment in many different ways. And the whole idea of a food partnership is that you bring together lots of different actors and lots of different people from across the whole food system to address kind of systemic things. So it's not just farmers having to deal with something, but it's farmers, shops, businesses, policymakers, people that buy food, eat food, people that can cook and teach food. So yeah, I hope there's enough background to why it's important. And I'm going to tell you a bit about what we're up to. And I've shared the wrong screen straight away. Well, actually, can you see the slides?
Yeah, we can do, yeah.
Okay, that's good. Oh, sorry, my laptop is very slow. It'll just slowed up now. Yeah, and so Food Futures work is really expansive, and actually, so I work for Less, which is an organisation that takes forwards a lot of our work, a lot of our projects. But my project, actually, I'm not going to talk about much of my project work today. I'm going to speak mainly around a lot of projects that have been taken forwards by Ellen, who's the lady here with the squash, and lots of other people working on food economy-based projects in the partnership. I've given you my email address, and I can forward stuff on if people are interested to Ellen, but she wasn't able to come today, so I'm kind of presenting on her behalf. And I thought I'd start with this slide because this is a lot of food producers from North Lancashire. So we're based up in Lancaster and Morecambe. We cover the whole of Lancaster district, which is like basically North Lancashire. And this is food producers from across North Lancashire that are feeding into our food hub pilot, which started this year. And I'll come back to that at the end. It's not letting me move on. Sorry, I think I'm just going to go out and share my screen a different way. Okay, can you see that okay?
Yeah, we
okay,
can do
great.
now, yeah.
Great. So this is the Food Futures Network. We just had this diagram made, and it's just sort of to try and make it easier for people to see how it works. So we're we're a partnership. It's a quite informal partnership. It's more like a network. We haven't signed any agreements and stuff, but it's a lot of different individuals, businesses, policymakers, food producers, people that are just generally interested as well, community groups who have agreed to a shared vision and are working to it in lots of different ways. And we have basically a number of working groups. Sorry, and yeah, these working groups all feed into sort of the main partnership body. And the reason we have working groups is because the food system is quite complex. There's lots of different aspects that need to be worked on at the same time, but all the things kind of need to be linked up as well. So I just kind of introduce it so you can see the different areas that are covered. We have a heart group, and that's kind of like a steering group. So they kind of oversee kind of the whole partnership direction. And people from the different working groups feed into the heart group. We have a food economy and procurement group, and they're looking at building kind of local food production in the area, but also thinking about the demand and the markets for that, whether that be local institutions through procurement or whether it be local businesses or local customers. And a lot of the work I'm going to talk about today is basically held by this group. Then we have the Healthy Food and Environment Working Group. So they're focusing on projects that think about how do we produce food in a way that's healthy for people and planet? How do we reduce waste? How do we reduce food waste? How do we compost and create healthy soils? And this is a group that I coordinate that group, and my project Closing Loops fits into that group. We have a community food skills group. So this is around kind of skills for people around cooking, growing, linking up different people that are working across the district with communities and teaching skills in communities. And then we also have within that project, within that working group, a schools project, which works with up to 14 schools at a time to bring food growing into school spaces and into the curriculum. We have the Lancaster District Food Justice Partnership, so they focus on access to food, particularly around poverty issues where people are struggling to access healthy or food at all. And that includes like our food club network. We have food banks in that. We have a surplus food redistribution warehouse and other things, kind of more statutory organisations in that group, like the council and Citizens Advice. And then we have a comms and engagement group as well. And then all of these groups feed into each other through our quarterly partnership meetings, as well as the working group leads go to the heart group. So it's keeping all those food system issues joined up as much as possible. Yeah, and you can find out more on our website if you're interested in that approach. And we're part of a Sustainable Food Places network, which is across the whole of the UK. So I think there's over 120 sustainable food places now, and they are all doing joined up food area in their geographical location. And it's different around the whole of the UK. Not everything, yeah, we're just one, and everyone looks slightly different. But it's nice to know that this sort of stuff is happening across the whole of the UK. Yeah, so I'm going to talk about a couple of our food economy and procurement projects because that really relates to the food and farming theme of this talk. Yeah, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is our work doing the Northern Real Farming Conference and how this has developed into the Northern Food and Farming collaboration. And the idea of this is around growing a movement for agroecologically produced food and farming in the area. And agroecological systems are ones that use kind of ecology and nature as a template, I guess, for how we should produce food and integrate nature into farming systems rather than having food systems separate from nature. And it doesn't have a certification. It's not like organic, but most organic systems would fit in with this type of approach. So yeah, one of our local farmers, he went down to the Oxford Real Farming Conference, which happens every year in Oxford. And they talk there about a lot about kind of changing the food and farming system, and a lot of farmers go and share different practices for how they're doing that. And there's a lot of inspiration to be shared there. And he came back very inspired, but he said, I think that it's very southern and that we need a northern version of this. So yeah, Les, who I work for, we took it on in early 2020 or probably late 2019. We started developing an idea for having a Northern Real Farming Conference with the idea that it would address kind of the unique landscapes, history, soils and cultures of the North and the type of farming we do here. And And it would be not just for farmers and land managers, but also local residents as well. So sort of bringing in the whole food system perspective. And in 2020, obviously, yeah, pandemic. So we ended up doing an online conference with 65 sessions, 500 people, individual people joining over I think it was 3 days we did it for. I think just also because of what else was going on then, like a lot of people, they really enjoyed that chance to connect and talk about something they're very passionate about. And 2021, we ran two different types of conferences. One was online with 35 sessions, and then an in-person one in Lancaster in the summer. And so that's where some of the photos here are from. That was like farm visits and walks, as well as kind of breakout sessions and hearing talks from different people. And then in 2022, a lot of videos were made with all the content that had already been created. So all of that is now uploaded and is on the Northern Real Farming Conference website. And then there was a whole process thinking about what's the future for the conference. And I think because a lot of farmers were going down to the Oxford Real Farming Conference, and there's also Carbon Calling up in Cumbria, which is a farmer-led conference that takes place kind of on site out in a field. And there kind of wasn't a need for this anymore in terms of having a conference, but there was a need for this collaboration. So it's become the Northern Food and Farming collaboration instead. And time's been taken to develop like a theory of change. We want to take this whole system approach, look at food and farming, and focus on the north of England. And they prioritise 6 areas. And the areas that they've kind of got mini projects in now are here on the left of the slide. So land access, public institutions and procurement, northern food processing and distribution capacity, so thinking about local abattoirs, mills, distributors, genetic diversity and what we're producing, landscape recovery projects, and a thriving land-based workforce, so education and training. And then there's different pockets of money for pilot projects in all those different areas. And Ellen knows much more about this, so if people are interested and want to know more, want to get involved, you can look on the website, which is here at the top, northernfoodandfarming.org, or drop me an email, I can put you in touch with Ellen. And then moving on to another bit of work that Les has also taken this forward, which was this idea of how could we produce more diversity of food in North Lancashire. So particularly up this end of the county, we have a lot of livestock and dairy farming, but very little fruit and vegetable production anymore. And it wasn't always like that. We used to have a lot of market gardens all around the border of the town. And there's quite a lot of land still which could be used in that way. So back in 2018, Food Futures had a visioning session, and one of the ideas was we'd love to see a ring of market gardens around the city centre. And Ellen again took this forward, and she did a small pilot project in 2018 to develop a 10-year vision for how could we do that? What would be a strategic and practical approach to growing more food and getting it to market? And she kind of broke it down into this document. And so I'm trying to work out, that's 6 years ago now, quite a lot has happened that we kind of had sort of set out would need to happen. So in years 1 to 2, we ran like an annual pilot short course, which took groups. There's about 20 different people that were interested in growing food for a living, went to visit a few projects to see how was that done? How did it look different in different places? What were the challenges? They started looking for land. We weren't able to set up a producers and sellers network, and we hadn't at that stage planned local growing with key stakeholders. In years 3 to 5, the aim was to set up a farm start scheme. So the idea of a farm start scheme is that you have a market garden, and actually it doesn't just have to be market gardens. You can have a farm start scheme for people that want to do livestock agriculture as well. But it's a chance for people who want to grow or produce food for a living to be trained in how to do it. And it works particularly well for horticulture because there's so many different things, I guess, that you need to learn, and you can do that through the cycle of the year. So the 40 weeks, we have a 40-week cycle where farm starters work 2 days a week on the land. So we have a market garden. They work 2 days a week. They have half a day of training on top of that as well. And some of them have bursaries, so they can have a small amount of money that allows them to do it. And some people do it because, as part of a training, I guess, is to then have a career in the future. And the idea is that the whole thing isn't just about how to grow food, but it's about how to get it to market. What are the business models you need to think about? We also do training about the whole wider food system as well. So that's up and running, and that's been going now for 4 years. So I'll go on to another slide about that next. Um, Trying to integrate local producers and grow the local markets, that's a very slow thing. So we haven't, I mean, actually, this slide probably needs updating because more is happening around that now. And transitions for farm starters, with the idea that people that go through farm start should be supported to then go on to do something with their training. And that's like an up and a down. So probably about half the people that have been through the scheme have gone on to do horticulture as a way of life, yeah, as a way of making a living. So I'll just introduce you to our market garden sites. So this is where we host the Farm Start scheme, and this is Les that holds this project. We have 2 market garden sites. One is based in a paddock at a organic dairy farm, just on the southern edge of the district. So yeah, these are the paddocks back in, I think 2020 or 2021, and then it's been turned into I think now it's a 2-acre site, all outdoor market garden. We also have some polytunnels on council land, which have now been organically certified and produce quite a lot of food. And yeah, I mean, outdoor growing is extremely challenging. One year it was very successful. Last year was an absolute nightmare. So I think the polytunnels have become a real asset. And that's something, I guess, for people to learn, like in this kind of climate and with the unpredictability of our climate, how do we need to adapt our growing as a much more undercover. We've had 3 cohorts of farm starters. We've got a crop share. So this is a community supported agriculture scheme. So here's like that photo there of the produce, gives you indication of what you get if you are part of the crop share scheme. And this is where we get people to sign up at the start of the season for 40 weeks. They pay a certain amount every week, no matter what they're going to get. And sometimes you get way more than £14 worth of produce, and other times you might get slightly less. But you're basically taking the risk or going in with the risk a little bit with the farmer. So if all the crops got wiped out, you wouldn't get your money back. Yeah, it's kind of this idea of sharing the risk, especially when like market gardens are fairly risky at the moment. We've got a growers cooperative in development. So this is people that have been through Farm Start, then are working together to produce food, and rather than kind of having lots of separate gardens, but actually having one that they work together on. Yeah, and it produces organic seasonal veg, salad, and herbs for 40 weeks a year. Obviously, if you've got undercover, you could do more. And then just this past year, we've been in the process of buying a community farm, so another bit of land with an big indoor space as well, and that's about to go through in the coming weeks. And then finally, just this idea of working, I guess, about the type of food and farming systems that really are healthy for us all. Thinking about the people, because training up people and how a lot of the ways of farming, especially like horticulture, if you want to do it in a way that's not damaging for the soils, it's quite labour intensive. So that's the idea of the farm start, is to build that labour capacity. And then there's this whole idea about how do you get the stuff to market? How do you bypass, I guess, the need for getting a supermarket contract or something? And this is a pilot that we've run for the past year called Gather. It's a food hub. And the idea of this is that it's basically an online shop where people can order from a range of different producers. And then the produce gets picked up and delivered into the city centre. And then it gets actually distributed out to collection points across the district, like Morecambe, Lancaster, and the sort of towns and villages around there. And yeah, this photo here gives you an idea of the sort of produce that we have. So we've got 3 market gardens involved. We've got 2 meat producers, we've got a mushroom grower, bread, preserves, milk production. We're looking for eggs. We have got cheese as well. So yeah, it's a kind of an online shop for people that want to go to a farmer's market, but it's much better for the producers not to have to go to a farmer's market in some ways. Yeah, this gives them a much more definite idea of what's going to come in each week. Yeah, so this has been part of what we've been doing for the past year, or Ellen's been working on, which is developing this North Lancashire food hub. And it was based on a piece of work that was done back in 2023, which looked at what was needed to enable a local food system to work in Lancashire. And one of the main recommendations was we needed this kind of food hub, this kind of infrastructure. We did a feasibility study to look at the business plan behind it, and then in this previous financial year, April to June 2024, we brought on board Egg Cup, which is our surplus food redistribution hub, and they're kind of doing the logistics and warehousing and deliveries, and it's really good because we can link in the food justice issues and the surplus food issues with this Gather food hub and sort of share costs, particularly around transport and things like that and warehousing. Yeah, and the pilot was ran from July to December and is just starting up again now. And this is a quick, like, sort of gives you a few highlights. So in that first 6 months, 8,516 was spent with Gather, and that's not including some other orders that came through the plot. Money was paid forward to Egg Cup, so people donated to Egg Cup as well as part of it. Yeah, milk was our most popular, so we have a royal milk producer out on the fell, and yeah, people really loved that in particular. Yeah, and this is a launch actually, so they all got together and bought their produce and got to talk to customers, and it's just like the idea is like building that connection between people and good food, and the people that produce their food is so important. Yeah, so thank you. That's it from me. I'll try and stop sharing.
Thanks, Rachel. Yeah, that was really, really interesting to hear the breadth of work that you're doing across your organisation. Before we move on, has anyone got any questions that they'd like to ask to Rachel about the presentation today? Free to put your hand up or stay in the chat as well. I think Harvey's got a question.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel. I really enjoyed that. Really interesting to see everything that you've been doing. I was just going to ask about the sort of number of producers that you've got involved, and obviously thinking about food and farming, and I'm here with a farmer. How involved are the farmers, and are there any particular leaders that have really kind of got involved and helped drive it forward?
Do you mean in the whole kind of thing, or in the hub?
Well, I suppose for any of maybe thinking about Gather at the end, the kind of food, the producers network and the online. I really like the idea of an online farmers market. I suppose that's one particularly where the farmers might be more involved.
Yeah, I think that's been one of our learnings. Well, there's two things that the Northern Real Farming Conference, now the Northern Food and Farming, that has involved quite a lot of food producers directly, and farmers and food growers, and that's kind of because it's a chance to get together and talk about different experiences and share knowledge, I guess, and experiences. But in terms of like the working groups, there's a few farmers that we have a few that are really keen, like and that it's about having the time as well to come to working group meetings. But in general, people in the same with food businesses, like the people that sell food, like the food shops, they just can't really justify getting involved in that. Whereas something like the food hub, it has a real practical benefit, and we've had like a couple of workshops, we had the launch, so it's easier in that sense for people to get involved because it also fits with what they're having to do to make their business work. Yeah, and I think I think it's like 11 or 12 producers at the moment on the food hub. Yeah, but it's kind of always a balancing act of, you want almost more food because then it would encourage more people to know there'll always be something available there, and it becomes a normal place you'll go because you know you're going to get what you need. But you also need to build that market before you're going to have too many producers feeding in, because you'll end up with having your costs are split too much and the profits split too much across too many people. So
yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I think as you say, it's that balance between growing sort of sustainability, as in keeping it going, but also trying to grow it a little bit as you go along.
Yeah, I mean, when we've had quite a lot of feedback from farmers, and we've done focus groups, and generally what the feedback has been is that we want a market. Like we want to have more direct contact with people that are buying our food, and that's kind of been the demand for like what they wanted to see happen, rather than talking about food justice issues or, I don't know, community gardens and stuff. But it's, yeah, so I guess that the food hub and kind of has been in response to that, as well as kind of what the report said it was a critical piece of infrastructure.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, Harvey. Anyone else got any questions? We did have Jane in the chat said thank you, Rachel, which is very nice. I think we might move on now. If no one else has got any questions, we might save them till the end, because time is marching on. So I'm going to hand over to Simon now to talk a bit about his work. So over to you.
Right, hello everyone. My name's Simon Stott, if nobody knows me. We farm in the village of Chipping in Lancashire. It's a third generation farm. My grandfather, my father and myself. Currently farming 600 acre of land with some lowland and then running up to some fell. We currently, previously 23 years ago, we used to be a sheep and beef farm. And 24 years ago diversified into milking sheep. One of the reasons why we diversified was I once went to France and saw a lot of French sheep's cheese and wondered why there was none in our country, apart from Roquefort. So I came back, did a little bit of research, approached a little dairy called Legram Dairy, and Bob Kitchen said, well, if you produce a bit, we'll see what happens. So we bought a few sheep from Holland and made a little small parlour, and we started rolling some kits down to the dairy and made a little cheese called Legram sheep's cheese. Then a few bigger dairies approached us, like Singleton's Dairy and Butler's Dairy, wanting to produce a bigger cheese, but we needed to grow into in a big scale. So we put in a state-of-art parlour, which we went to Norway to buy an SG-free dealer valve rapid exit parlour, so we could up our animals up to 450 from 100. We produced a cheese with Singletons called Parlick Fell, which took off in Sainsbury's, and they wanted to put it into more stores. So we then decided we'd have to milk 500-600. So we introduced a cooperative called Sheep Milk UK, which is our own cooperative, and we asked farmers nearby if they'd be interested in milking sheep, and we had quite a bit of interest. So we were breeding our own sheep, and we had a market to sell the offspring from them. So we now currently have 9 farmers in the cooperative, all milking between 400 and 700 sheep. And so we have our own milk tanker, which we collect milk 3 times a week and deliver it to 23 different dairies, ranging from Northumberland Dairy to Shepherd's Purse at Thirsk. Some well-known cheeses are like Mrs. Bell's Blue, Parlick Fell, the Harriet, Parlick Brie. So they'll see those in Booths and Sainsbury's, and also Waitrose, more the higher end market. While we've been working on producing sheep's product, we've also been selling our offspring to more people, and we've also got a list of about 3 more farmers that want to start milking sheep. So it's a growing market. 4 or 5 years ago, we hit the COVID, which spoilt it a little bit for us. So a lot of our restaurants that had sheep's cheeses in, supermarkets, etc., slowed down. So we introduced a new company called the Sheep Milk Company, which was an e-commerce website. So we could put the milk that we couldn't sell. Rather than to stop, we produced our own cheeses, which was the smoked, a soft, and the Harriet, and bottled milk and ice cream and yogurt. And we started to sell through online for those people that couldn't find it in the supermarkets and wanted it, couldn't find it in the restaurant because the restaurants were closed. The one thing with sheep's milk is it's got benefits if you're intolerant to dairy. It has no lactose in it, so you can drink sheep's milk and yogurt and cheese. So we have a market for about 1.6 million people in this country, apparently, for intolerant to dairy. And the also added benefit of sheep's milk is it makes twice as much cheese as cows because of its high butter fat and protein, and it's very good for skin. But moving forward over the latter 15 years, we needed to also try and encourage more people and make our farm look like a proud farm to be able to produce sheep, even though sheep are out in the fields. So we've joined a lot of schemes over the last 15 years. Originally, the first scheme was the countryside stewardship. So we had 10 years on a countryside stewardship doing a lot of hedgerow, walling, planting trees, which we wanted to work along with the environment. We also do quite a lot of work with the wader bird, the oyster catcher and the chewit, which we're very fond of because they're a good farming bird. They get rid of the fluke out of the land, so our animals, we don't have any fluke on our farm. We fenced a lot of wet areas in, dug a lot of scrapes for the birds rather than the birds being down in the wet areas where the sheep were. And then this latter 10 years, we've tried to work also with other schemes. So we've done quite a lot of work with the environmental agency, wanting to get our farm up to scratch. So latterly, this last 10 years, we've been working with the Ribble Trust, local authority, which allows us to get grants towards putting roofs over our slurry pits. One of the benefits for doing that was to prevent water going in our slurry. So every load of slurry put on the land is, you know, the proper nutrients rather than what they call grey water. So we're not compacting the land as much. We're also grant aided the use of a dribble bar so that the slurry is not going into the environment. We've planted over 5 hectares of trees to become help our carbon. One of the things we do come across working with the supermarkets is they would like most farmers in a certain time to be net zero, carbon net zero, which is quite a challenge, but we're trying to do as much as we possibly can. And by working with these, like certainly the Ribble Trust, by planting trees, concreting the yard to prevent any pollution into the water. One thing we've been doing over the last couple of years is working very closely with the soil and trying to get our pH levels correct. And a lot of the land in our area, due to the wet weather, is compacted. So we've done a lot of aeration, subsoiling and spiking to be able to get the nutrients to go into the soil and allow our soil types to be, you know, in perfect condition to be able to take the nutrients that we're applying, and obviously not letting any go into the atmosphere. We've lately, about a month ago, we've put 66 kilowatts of solar panels on the roof, which is now making from 9 till 4 o'clock free energy. So we're not allowing on electricity from the grid, and the electric that we have spare at the moment we'll sell back to the grid or maybe buy a battery in the future to be able to milk in the morning when it's dark on our own battery. Just in a few weeks I've been with the solar panels, we have a system on the computer that says we've already saved around 550 kilos of coal, 450 kilos of CO2 into the atmosphere, and planted the equivalent of 0.8 of a tree, which in 2 weeks, that's where we're wanting to go. I'm big fonder of becoming net zero in the future because I think that's what the general public want. So if we can sell a product, a sheep's cheese or a sheep's milk, that's slightly better than somebody else's because it's got, you know, all the environmental benefits of it. With, you know, and this is only been possible because we've got schemes like Ribble Trust, the CS Countryside Stewardship, which are providing grants for us to be able to put this practice in place. Without these practices, we'd probably struggle to be able to do that. So we're getting into quite a good clean position now with these schemes, and we've just been announced there's some new schemes coming forward, so hopefully we'll be in a stronger position again in a few more years. So that's around where we are with the farming side of things.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
Thanks, Simon.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Simon.
that's great. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, I work for Ribble Rivers Trust. So we're here with Simon today. But yeah, I think we've been working with you over a decade now. And Simon is one of those people who will always look for the next thing and looking for innovation. So he talked about covered loads of different things there, but the milking parlour, even that, state-of-the-art milking parlour, massive investment, but it means that it's more efficient and it costs less to run. And then all of the landscape changes that are beneficial to the farm, but also beneficial to the environment. And I think, as you've said, it's that idea of working with the land, looking at the soil. Is it the right pH? So does that mean you can save money on fertiliser, or that sort of thing? And putting air into the soil, so using the aerator and the subsoiler. If you've got a better soil structure, then the grass will grow quicker and more lush. And you've been talking last night, you were at a farm group meeting, weren't you, looking at herbal lays and different and other things like that.
We were planning to plant around 100 acre of herbal lays. So those are like different grasses like sheep, parsley and cocksfoot and things, all traditional grasses, which will strengthen the soil structure. They've got larger roots, and also ignite their own nitrogen. So we won't have to, put as much fertiliser on because they'll be able to produce their own nitrogen. So this is what farmers now are wanting to do over the next few years, start putting herbal lays in to strengthen the soil structures and also make a food for the animals without having to put extra feed on.
So again, working with nature. And then the other thing, which actually today you've got a school group coming to visit.
We about part of our original countryside stewards kit, we got asked if we'd put a educational classroom up. So we got some grant funding towards an educational classroom, which we do around 25 visits a year, all primary school visits. So they're here for about 4 hours. They go around the farm, they learn how the sheep are milked, they feed lambs. They also watch hedge laying and stone walling. They watch different practices, like today they're watching sheep shearing. So we've got to do key stage children between the age of 11 and 16 at the moment. That's what they ask us to do. It's also great for us because they'll come to the farm, they get guided to around, they can run around in the fresh grass, they see the animals, and then they get a chance to try some sheep's cheese and sheep's milk. So hopefully they all go home and say to the parents that we like the sheep's cheese, and then we've got like an easy advertisement for us. So it's good to see that, and they can learn different things as well.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? Or
thank you.
I've got a question. Oh, Glynis, you've got your hand up.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen. You both look very familiar. I spent 13 years as the head teacher at Brabington Dale Primary School in Chipping, just down the road from where you are. And I educated the Hamlet children and the Stotts children. So I'm delighted to hear that you are still running the classroom scheme, because I remember visiting that when you first installed it, and I'm very pleased to know that that's going from strength to strength. Can I ask, how do you promote that? Is it by word of mouth?
Well, when we originally started, it was by word of mouth, and then people had said, "Oh, it's a good, it's a good visit. Why don't you, go?" And then the latter few years, FIPL, which is a grant-aided scheme, which has allowed some money. They've encouraged a few people to go out and find the visit. So, for instance, FIPL have funded a lady to go and visit schools and say, "We'd like to take you to a farm on a certain day. Obviously, we're paid per visit by the Rural Payments Agency through our higher tier scheme, so it's a free visit for the school. And obviously, I think FIP contribute now towards the transport, so it's a bit of a win-win situation for schools to come, because originally, you know, the transport was killing it for them, but now it's quite a reasonable trip for them. But yeah, so the latter couple of years, FIPL, we have a dedicated teacher that comes out, and we have one member of staff that goes with them as well. But before that, we used to just, you know, like a young farmers group would say, we've just visited the farm, that's a good venue to go. And then we'd have, like, my college had mentioned it to another college, so it was word of mouth before, but now it's slightly more professionally done.
I would like to invite you, at no cost to yourself, to be part of the marketplace at the Sustainability Learning Conference, which will attract 50 primary schools from the Lancashire Northwest and beyond. And I would also like to invite Ribble Valley Trust to get involved, because you have some fantastic learning programs. People still talk about your big tray with the sand in.
Yeah, the river table, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, please do seriously think about doing that, because it's a wonderful opportunity for you to promote yourself. I was involved with rearing trout at one stage, which went well. So congratulations to you, because I've seen the work of your farm grow over many, many years, and it's a true success story. So thank you very much, and thank you for including young people in the learning process. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Glenys. And the FIPL, that stands for Farming in Protected Landscapes, and that's run in this area by the Forest of Bowland National Landscape Team, as they're now called. Yeah, so that's what FIPL is. And I think they've also given grants out to farms as well. So I think so people have been able to apply to do some improvements, you know, capital works, or, you know, get some new equipment and that sort of thing as well. So that's been active for the last couple of years, I think.
Brilliant, thanks. Thanks, Glenys, for your question. We've got a question from Claire in the chat. So Claire said, what you were doing is really impressive, Simon. Have you noticed an increase in wildlife after all your changes for your hedge and tree planting?
Yes, we have. We monitor every year. We have a lady that comes out and monitors all our wildlife, and the eggs. They monitor when a chewit lays its eggs. They monitor how many hatch from it. So yeah, we have seriously increased from probably 15, 16 years ago, since we've been doing some weather work. But one thing we have noticed is, over the last say 25 years of planting hedges and trees, we've tried to interlink all our hedges to woods. So we'd have a wood, and then we'd have like 50 acre of no hedges. So we've connected hedges to every wood, and every stream's connected to a hedge. So any kind of wildlife can be in a wood and actually get to another wood without actually going across a field and being scared of tractors or any kind of activity. So we've seen quite a lot of not just birds and oyster catchers, etc. We've also seen other animals like, squirrels and rabbits, and that are actually enjoying that privacy in those hedges. And it's just nice to see all the berries growing as well to attract the birds, because 25 years ago it was quite a cold farm before the hedges. And it's also very good for all the lambing sheep, because the one thing my father said, we can only lamb sheep if they've got shelter. So now we've got a lot of hedges, so it's good for our own practice as well as for the wildlife.
Brilliant, thanks. And I suppose this kind of leads on from that question, just wondering, what do you think's had the most, of all the sort of changes that you've done and the schemes that you've done, what do you think's had the most impact on the farm and on the environment around it?
The most impact, I think, trying to become carbon zero is very important to me. I mean, it's probably virtually impossible, but people don't, they want to know where a product comes from. They don't want to know there's lots of fertiliser and there's lots of slurry going into the atmosphere. So by doing that practice, we've also helped the wildlife as well, because, for instance, putting a lot of nutrients on a field doesn't attract wildlife. So if the nutrients going on properly, then the oyster catcher and the wader, they still enjoy that field, even though it can be intensive. So both practices are working quite well. Some of the higher land, I would say, is the most benefit for the environment, because it's wetter land, and we've done scrapes and ditch blocking and rush management, and that's allowed the waders to stay there. So we've got like two types of farm. We've got an intensive farm, which we're trying to get the soils correct and look after the environment, and then we've got the higher farm, which is what we call the bird farm, where we're wetting areas up, managing the rush. So a combination of both, and obviously the tree planting as well. On the bankings, we're closing all the bankings, so no animals are going down the bankings, and they're not putting any nutrients or soil erosion into the river. So we're actually also protecting what's in the river as well. So the whole combination, it works. But all this doesn't work without such like as the Rivers Ribble Trust, which are helping fund and put dedication into making it work for us, because without that, we probably couldn't afford to do it all.
No, thanks. That makes sense, and very exciting to see how it develops as well into the future, and hopefully you get towards that net zero target, even if you say it's impossible to fully achieve. We've had another thank you on the chat. So Jane has said, thank you, Simon, for the work you're doing. It's great work. Before we finish, we're sort of hurtling towards 1:30 now. Has anyone else got any questions they'd like to ask Simon or Rachel? Okay, and then we always finish with any updates or announcements from the rest of the group. So if anyone does have any updates they'd like to share about their work relating to food and farming, or just related to the environment, then got a couple of minutes before we finish to be able to do that. Glynis?
Yeah, in my role as the conference coordinator for the Sustainability Learning Conference that I've mentioned, farming has always been a major priority, and we work very closely with Leaf and Katie Palace, that some of you might know. For those people who are online now, if you think that you can benefit by coming and joining in this event, we have been referred to as the largest event of its kind in the country. So you're not coming to something small and tiddly. You're coming to something that's well organised. If I can give you a website address so you can look us up and see what we're about. It's www.school-sustainability.org. And you would be very welcome. We offer free marketplace spaces so that you can promote the work that you do specifically with schools, but that's from Key Stage 2 right up to Key Stage 4. So I just want to do the little advertising. But I've really enjoyed this session. I'm very pleased that I came along. My coffee's gone cold, but it's been fascinating, and thank you very much, Rachel, for your input, as well as Simon and Harvey. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Glynis.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Has anyone else got any announcements before we finish today?
I was just going to mention that you might have been going to do this, Sam, but the next one of these lunch and learns is on the 24th of April. And the theme for that one is environmental education. And we've got the Ernest Cook Trust for that one. And we've also got, again, thinking about the older age group, we've got John McLeod from Blackpool Sixth Form College, who's the co-chair of the Filed Eco Schools Network, and also was the kind of main organizer for the youth conference last year, the Lancashire Climate Action Network Youth Conference last year. So some more great organisations and speakers next time as well.
Yeah, Glynis?
Just want to say that both of those speakers will be extremely interesting to listen to. I've worked with John. I was at the Blackpool conference, and that was a success. That was the first one. And then I've also worked with who's your presenter for?
It's Alison Cross.
Alison Cross.
Yeah.
Yes, she's superb. Do a lot of work with her. So I would recommend people join in that meeting. I think Lydia Merrill is booked in on that from MEAN, which is the Manchester Environmental Education Network. And I'll probably join that as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think we will finish now. So yeah, I just want to once again thank our speakers. Thank you all for taking the time out of your lunch break to come and listen and learn about the fabulous work happening in Lancashire. And we will see you all next time. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.